Steve Harvey was in the middle of hosting what seemed like an ordinary Family Feud episode when his producer walked onto the stage carrying something that would stop the show completely. What happened next left everyone in tears and reminded America that it's never too late to heal a broken heart. The studio lights were bright that afternoon as Steve stood at his podium, ready to announce the next question. The Patterson family from Sacramento was facing off against the Morrison family from Seattle. Both families were energetic, the audience was engaged, and everything seemed perfectly routine. But behind the scenes, the production team had been working for 3 months to orchestrate something extraordinary, something that would transform an ordinary game show into a moment of pure healing. Patricia Reynolds, 68 years old, stood at the end of the Patterson family line. She was a retired art teacher with silver hair. She wore in an elegant twist, and despite her bright smile, there was a sadness in her eyes that never quite disappeared. Next to her stood her husband Thomas, her daughter Emily, who was 26 and worked as a graphic designer, her son Christopher, who was 29 and taught high school English, and her niece Jennifer, who was 31 and had organized this whole Family Feud experience as a gift. The Patterson family had already won the first round, and Steve was enjoying their company. During the commercial break, he wandered over to chat with them, as he often did, getting to know the families beyond just their answers. "So, Patricia," Steve said warmly, "your niece tells me you were an art teacher for 40 years. That's incredible." Patricia's face lit up with genuine joy. "I loved every minute of it, Steve. There's something magical about watching someone discover they can create beauty with their own hands." "Now that's beautiful." Steve nodded. "What kind of art did you teach?" "Everything, really. Painting, sculpture, ceramics, but I specialized in watercolors. There's something about the way the colors blend and flow that always felt like capturing emotions on paper." Steve noticed she touched a delicate silver locket at her neck as she spoke. It was an unconscious gesture, one she seemed to repeat often. "That's a beautiful locket," Steve observed gently. Patricia's hand stilled on the jewelry, and her expression shifted to something more wistful. "Thank you. It was a gift from my mother many years ago. I never take it off." "Special memories?" Steve asked, his voice softer now. Patricia nodded, her eyes glistening slightly. "Very special. It reminds me of someone I love very much but haven't seen in a long time." Steve could sense there was a deeper story there. But before he could ask more, the stage manager called for places. As Steve returned to his position, he caught his producer's eye in the booth. Marcus Freeman gave him a subtle nod, a signal Steve had learned meant something significant was coming. The game continued, and the Patterson family was doing remarkably well. They were quick, supportive of each other, and clearly close-knit. Emily buzzed in with an answer. And as the family celebrated, Patricia hugged her daughter tightly, holding on just a moment longer than seemed necessary. "You've got a wonderful family here," Steve commented during the next break. "I do," Patricia agreed. But there was something in her tone. "Family is everything to me. I learned that the hard way." Thomas, her husband, put a supportive arm around her shoulders. He'd been married to Patricia for 43 years and knew the weight she carried. Jennifer, the niece who had organized the trip, kept glancing toward the wings of the stage. Her phone was in her hand, and she seemed nervous in a way that had nothing to do with the game. "Jennifer, you all right?" Steve asked, noticing her distraction. Jennifer jumped slightly. "Oh, yes, Mr. Harvey. Just excited. This is such a big day." Steve gave her a curious look but smiled. "Well, your family's doing great. You should be proud." As they moved into the third round, Steve asked Patricia about her watercolor work. "Do you still paint?" "Every day," Patricia replied. "It's how I process my feelings. My studio is filled with paintings of memories, places I've been, people I've loved." "People you've loved," Steve repeated thoughtfully. "Anyone in particular?" Patricia's hand went to her locket again. "My mother. She passed away 35 years ago, and I think about her every day. And," she paused, her voice catching, "and my younger sister." The studio went quieter. Even the audience seemed to lean in. "Your sister?" Steve prompted gently. Patricia took a breath, clearly fighting emotion. "Linda. She's 62 now, I think. I haven't seen her or spoken to her in 35 years. Steve's expression showed his surprise and compassion. 35 years is a long time. May I ask what happened? Patricia wiped at her eyes carefully. We had a falling out after our mother passed. It was about her belongings, her estate. It was such a difficult time, and there were misunderstandings. Linda and I both said things in our grief that we couldn't take back. She thought I didn't want her to have anything of Mom's. I thought she didn't want me in her life anymore. We were both so hurt and so proud that neither of us reached out to fix it. Thomas squeezed his wife's hand. She's looked for Linda over the years, tried to find her through mutual friends, searched online, but her sister seemed to have vanished. I dream about her, Patricia continued, her voice barely above a whisper. I dream that I run into her at a grocery store or a park, and I get to tell her I'm sorry, that I get to tell her I love her, and I never stopped thinking about her. That family is more important than any misunderstanding. Steve had to clear his throat. That's heavy, Patricia. That's real heavy. The worst part, Patricia added, is that we grew up so close. Linda and I were best friends. We did everything together. She was artistic too, but she loved music, while I loved painting. We used to say we were two halves of the same creative soul. In the production booth, Marcus Freeman was watching a monitor carefully. On another screen, he could see a woman waiting in the wings, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Linda Morrison was 62 years old, with auburn hair starting to show gray, and she looked remarkably like her older sister. She wore a similar locket around her neck, and her hands trembled as she watched Patricia on the monitor. The game continued, but Steve's attention kept drifting back to Patricia. There was something about her story that touched him deeply. During another break, Jennifer approached Steve quietly. Mr. Harvey, can I tell you something? Jennifer asked, her voice shaking with excitement and nerves. Of course, sweetheart. What's going on? Jennifer glanced at her aunt, who was talking with her family, then back to Steve. You know how Aunt Patricia mentioned her sister Linda? Steve nodded slowly, beginning to understand. I found her, Jennifer whispered. I found Aunt Linda, and she's been looking for Aunt Patricia too. Mr. Harvey, they've both been heartbroken for 35 years over a misunderstanding. Steve's eyes widened. Are you telling me what I think you're telling me? Jennifer nodded, tears already flowing. She's here. Linda is here. Your producers helped me arrange everything. Aunt Patricia has no idea. Steve put his hand over his heart. Oh, baby. This is going to be something. There's more, Jennifer added quickly. We found something. Something that explains everything about the misunderstanding. Your team has been amazing. Steve took a moment to compose himself, then turned to his producer. Marcus Freeman was already walking onto the stage with a small, ornate wooden music box in his hands. The box was clearly antique, beautifully carved with intricate flower patterns on its lid. Patricia saw the music box and went completely still. Her face drained of color. Patricia, Marcus said gently, do you recognize this? Patricia's hand went to her mouth. That's my mother's music box. Where did you get that? The audience was silent, sensing something profound was happening. Steve moved closer to Patricia, ready to support her through whatever was coming. Your mother left this with her attorney, Marcus explained. After she passed away, he was supposed to give it to you and your sister together. But there was a mix-up with the estate paperwork, and the box ended up in storage at the law firm. When the firm closed 5 years ago, these items went to a storage auction. Patricia was crying now, shaking her head in disbelief. I thought it was lost. Linda loved that music box. Mom used to wind it up and dance with us when we were young. Your niece Jennifer has been searching for your sister, Marcus continued. And when she found her, Linda mentioned this music box. She'd been heartbroken that it disappeared. So Jennifer hired a private investigator, and they tracked it down. Marcus carefully opened the music box. A delicate, tinkling melody began to play. An old lullaby. Inside the box, nestled in faded velvet, were 2 sealed envelopes. One was addressed to Patricia. The other was addressed to Linda. Patricia let out a sob. She left us letters. Mom left us letters. She did? Steve confirmed, his own voice thick with emotion. And Patricia, there's something else. Someone else who's been searching for you just as hard as you've been searching for her. Patricia looked up at Steve, hope and fear mixing in her expression. What do you mean? Steve gestured toward the wings. Linda, would you come out here, please? The woman who walked onto the Family Feud stage looked like she was walking through a dream. Linda Morrison moved slowly, her eyes locked on her sister, one hand clutching her matching locket. She was dressed in a simple blue blouse and slacks, and tears were already streaming down her face. Patricia stood frozen for a heartbeat. Then her hand flew to her locket, mirroring her sister's gesture. Linda? Patricia's voice was barely audible. Patty, Linda whispered, using the childhood nickname only she had ever used. The studio erupted as the sisters ran to each other. They collided in the center of the stage in an embrace so tight, so desperate, that it seemed they were trying to make up for 35 years of missing hugs all at once. Both women were sobbing, holding each other's faces, touching each other's hair, as if confirming the other was real. I'm so sorry, Patricia gasped between sobs. I'm so sorry for everything I said. No, I'm sorry, Linda cried. I was young and stupid and proud. I should have called. I should have tried harder. I looked for you, Patricia said, pulling back to look at her sister's face. I never stopped looking for you. I looked for you too, Linda replied. I moved 6 times over the years, but I always left forwarding addresses hoping you'd find me. I never got any letters. They held each other again, rocking slightly, both crying so hard they could barely stand. Steve had to wipe his own eyes, and there wasn't a dry eye in the studio. Even the camera operators were struggling to see through their tears. Thomas stepped forward and put his arms around both women, welcoming his sister-in-law into the family. Emily and Christopher joined the embrace, meeting their aunt for the first time in their memory. Finally, Steve gently guided the sisters to sit on the Family Feud steps. They sat close together, hands clasped, neither willing to let go of the other. I think, Steve said softly, before we go any further, you both need to read what your mother left for you. Marcus brought the music box over and carefully removed the 2 envelopes. Together? Patricia asked Linda. Together, Linda agreed. They opened their envelopes simultaneously. Inside each was a handwritten letter on their mother's stationery, the ink slightly faded but still legible. As they read silently, fresh tears fell on the pages. After a few minutes, Patricia looked up at the audience, then at Steve. May I read this aloud? End quote. If you'd like to, Steve said gently. Patricia's voice shook as she read. My dearest Patricia, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I pray you and Linda are reading these letters together. I know my passing will be hard on both of you, and I worry that dividing my belongings might cause conflict. Please know that I've tried to be fair, but more importantly, please know that nothing I own is worth losing your sister over. She paused to compose herself, then continued. You and Linda have been the greatest joy of my life. Watching you grow up together, supporting each other, loving each other, has been my proudest achievement. You are both so talented, so creative, so full of light. Patricia, your art has always astounded me. The way you see the world in colors and shapes that no one else notices is a gift. Linda, your music has brought healing to so many, including me. Patricia stopped, her voice breaking completely. Linda squeezed her hand and took over reading from her own letter. My dearest Linda, I hope you and Patricia are together as you read these words. I need you both to understand something crucial about the estate. There was confusion with my attorney about certain items, particularly my music box and jewelry. If there are any misunderstandings, please know they are not intentional. Linda's voice grew stronger. This music box has always been meant for both of you. Inside the hidden compartment at the bottom are the matching lockets I had made for you when you were young. I wanted you each to have something that would always connect you to each other and to me. Patricia's locket has a photo of Linda as a baby. Linda's locket has a photo of Patricia as a baby. That way, you each carry each other close to your heart. Both sisters looked at their lockets in shock. "There's a photo inside?" Patricia whispered. "I never opened it," Linda admitted. "I was too afraid. After Mom died and we fought, I couldn't bear to look inside." Together, they carefully opened their lockets. Patricia let out a small cry as she saw a tiny faded photograph of a baby Linda. Linda's locket revealed a baby Patricia. "We've been carrying each other all along," Patricia said through her tears. "All these years, you were right here." She touched her locket over her heart. Steve was openly crying now, not bothering to hide it. The audience was a sea of tissues and tears. Linda continued reading her letter. "My greatest wish is that you two remain close. Families have disagreements, but true love finds a way to forgive. Patricia, you tend to hold things in and overthink. Linda, you tend to react quickly and leave before talking things through. These are not flaws, but parts of who you are. Accept them in each other with love and grace." Patricia picked up where Linda's letter left off, reading from her own. "If you're fighting, please stop. Please forgive each other. Please remember the little girls who used to dance to this music box together. Remember the teenagers who stayed up all night talking about dreams. Remember the young women who supported each other through every challenge. That love doesn't disappear because of one fight, one misunderstanding, or even 1 year of silence. Love endures." Both letters ended the same way. "I love you both infinitely. Take care of each other. You are sisters by blood, but more importantly, you are sisters by love. That bond is unbreakable if you choose not to break it. All my love forever, Mom." The silence in the studio was profound. Then, slowly, someone in the audience began to clap. Others joined until the entire studio was on its feet, applauding through their tears. Patricia and Linda sat together, holding the letters, holding each other, crying and laughing simultaneously. "We've been fools," Patricia said finally. "The biggest fools," Linda agreed. 35 years. We missed 35 years, but we're here now," Patricia said firmly. "We're here now, and we're not going to waste another minute." Steve sat down on the steps with them. "Can I ask you ladies something? What caused the misunderstanding? What happened to your mother's belongings?" Patricia and Linda looked at each other, then both laughed sadly. "I thought Linda took everything important before I got to Mom's house," Patricia explained. "When I arrived, so much was already gone. I thought she didn't want me to have anything. And I thought Patricia had already been there first," Linda added. "I came a few days after Mom passed, and the house was partially cleared out. I thought Patty was being unfair, but neither of us had been there yet." Patricia realized. Someone else must have. "The attorney hired an estate service," Jennifer interjected gently. "I found the records. They cleared out the house before either of you were officially able to access it. There was confusion about the will and the timeline. By the time you both got there, most things were already in storage or sold. So we fought over something that neither of us did," Linda said, shaking her head. "We were both grieving and looking for someone to blame," Patricia added. "And we blamed each other instead of asking questions." Steve leaned forward. "But here's the miracle. You both kept looking for each other. You both wanted to reconcile. That says everything about who you are." "I've thought about her every single day," Patricia said, looking at Linda. "Every painting I've done for the last 35 years has been influenced by missing you. My art became melancholy, darker. People called it beautiful, but I knew it was grief." Linda nodded vigorously. "And I stopped playing music for 10 years after our fight. 10 years. My husband finally convinced me to pick up my violin again, but it was never the same. Every song felt incomplete because I wasn't sharing it with you." "You still play violin?" Patricia asked, her face lighting up. "Every day now." Linda smiled. "And you still paint?" "Every day," Patricia confirmed. "We never lost our connection to art. We just lost our connection to each other. Steve stood up. You know what? I'm calling an audible here. This game is suspended. I don't care about points or prizes right now. This is about family, and family is more important than any game show. The audience applauded again, and Steve turned to his producers. We're going to do right by both these families. Everyone gets the grand prize today, but more importantly, we're going to give these sisters the time they need. For the next hour, the show became something entirely different. It became a healing space, a reunion, a celebration. Linda's family was brought out. Her husband, Richard, of 40 years, her son, Daniel, who was 33 and worked as a music therapist, and her daughter, Sarah, who was 28 and was a professional violinist. The two families merged together with surprising ease. Emily and Sarah discovered they both lived in Portland and had probably walked past each other dozens of times. Christopher and Daniel bonded over their shared love of teaching. The husbands, Thomas and Richard, had both been wanting their wives to reconcile for decades. I've been telling her to keep looking, Richard said, putting his arm around Linda. I knew her heart was broken without her sister. And I've been encouraging Patricia to never give up hope, Thomas added. A man knows when his wife is carrying pain. A man knows when his wife is carrying pain. Now, when his wife is carrying pain. Steve asked the sisters to share memories, and they did. They talked about childhood summers spent painting and playing music together. Patricia described how Linda would play violin while she painted, the two of them creating art in tandem. Linda remembered how Patricia would paint watercolor cards for every holiday, each one personalized and beautiful. I saved every single card you ever gave me, Linda admitted. They're in albums at home. I look at them sometimes when I'm feeling sad. Patricia's eyes widened. I have every recording you ever made, every school concert, every recital, even that terrible tape from when you were learning guitar. They both laughed through their tears, and the sound was identical. You know what's amazing? Emily said to her Aunt Linda. Mom named me Emily after someone. She never told us who, but she said it was someone very important to her. Linda gasped. Emily was our grandmother's name, the one who taught me to play violin. And Christopher's middle name is Michael, Patricia added. Was that after Dad? Linda finished. Our father. You remembered. I never forgot. Patricia whispered. I named my children after our family, hoping somehow it would bring you back to me. How I and Askai. Linda reached into her purse with shaking hands. And Patricia, I did the same thing. Sarah's middle name is Grace. That was Mom's middle name, Patricia completed, her voice full of wonder. Steve watched this exchange with visible emotion. You've both been honoring each other and your family all these years, even apart. There's something else, Jennifer said, pulling out her phone. Aunt Linda, do you remember donating to an art education fund about 20 years ago, through a community foundation? Linda nodded slowly. Yes, I set up a small scholarship fund for underprivileged art students. I did it anonymously, in Mom's memory. Aunt Patricia, Jennifer continued, do you remember receiving a scholarship grant that saved your art program at school? Patricia's hand flew to her mouth. That was you? That grant kept my program alive for 15 years. I taught hundreds of students because of that funding. Linda was crying again. I never knew where the money went specifically. The foundation distributed it based on need. And Patricia, Jennifer said to her aunt, that music therapy program you've been donating to for the past 18 years, the one that helps people heal through music? Patricia nodded, already understanding. That's Daniel's program, Jennifer revealed. Your nephew's program. You've been funding your own nephew's work, helping people through music therapy. Daniel stood up, his eyes wide. That anonymous donor that kept us going when we almost closed? That was you, Aunt Patricia? I donated in Mom's name, Patricia explained. She always said music heals the soul. I wanted to honor that, even though I couldn't play music myself. The interconnections kept revealing themselves. Sarah performed regularly at a gallery that had been showcasing Patricia's work anonymously for years. Christopher's school had benefited from an arts integration program that Linda had helped develop. The two families had been orbiting each other, supporting each other unknowingly, for decades. "We were always connected," Linda said with wonder. "Even when we couldn't find each other, we were helping each other." "That's love," Steve said simply. "That's what love does. It finds a way." The sisters stood and embraced again, this time longer, softer, as if they were memorizing the feeling of having each other back. "I have so many questions," Patricia said. "I want to know everything about the last 35 years. "We have time now," Linda assured her. "We have all the time in the world." Steve gathered both families together on stage. "I want to show you all something." While we've been taping, our social media has been flooded with messages from people sharing their own stories of family separation and reconciliation. This reunion is inspiring thousands of people to reach out to their own lost loved ones. He showed them his phone, scrolling through hundreds of comments, people sharing that they were calling estranged siblings, parents, cousins, others sharing their own reunion stories, crediting this moment with giving them hope and courage. "This is bigger than a game show," Steve said. "This is about showing people that it's never too late, that love can survive decades of silence. That family is worth fighting for." Patricia spoke to the camera directly, her voice steady despite her tears. "If you're watching this and you're separated from someone you love, please don't wait. Don't let pride or fear or time keep you apart. Life is too short, and love is too precious. Reach out. Try. Even if you're scared, even if you don't know what to say, just try." Linda added, "And if you're the one receiving that call or that letter, answer it. Open your heart. Give grace. We all make mistakes. We all say things we don't mean. We all have pride that gets in the way. But family, true family, is worth more than being right." The taping finally wrapped up hours later than scheduled, but no one minded. Both families exchanged phone numbers, addresses, and made immediate plans to get together. Patricia invited everyone to her home the following weekend, where she promised to show Linda her studio and all the paintings inspired by missing her. Linda invited Patricia to a concert where Sarah would be performing, where she'd finally get to hear her niece play. They talked about holidays and birthdays, about making up for lost time, about integrating their families into one larger, stronger unit. Before leaving the studio, the sisters stood together one more time, holding the music box between them. "Should we open the hidden compartment?" Linda asked. Mom said there was something else inside. Patricia nodded, and together they found the small catch on the bottom of the box. It opened to reveal two more items, a small key and a note. The note read, "This key opens the safety deposit box at First National Bank. Inside, you'll find my journals from the year you were both born. I've written messages to you throughout your lives. These are for you to share together. All my love, Mom." "She left us more," Patricia whispered. "She left us her words." "We'll read them together," Linda decided. "Every single page, together." As the sisters left the studio with their families, they walked arm in arm, matching lockets gleaming in the sunlight. They were talking and laughing, already falling back into the easy rhythm they'd shared as young women. Steve watched them go, then turned to his producers. "That's why we do this show. Not for the laughs, not for the ratings. For moments like that. For reminding people what really matters." The episode aired 6 weeks later and touched viewers deeply. Many people reached out to share their own stories of family separation, saying the reunion had inspired them to reconnect with their own loved ones. Patricia and Linda began speaking occasionally at local community events about the importance of forgiveness and family reconciliation. They started volunteering together at a community center, helping facilitate conversations between estranged family members who were trying to heal old wounds. But the real story was simpler and more beautiful than any publicity could capture. It was in the weekly dinners where both families gathered, now a single extended family. It was in Patricia's paintings, which suddenly burst with color again, life returning to her art. It was in Linda's music, which found new depth and joy, her violin singing with happiness. It was in the studio Patricia and Linda built together in Patricia's backyard, where Patricia would paint while Linda played music, creating art together like they had as children. It was in the matching lockets they wore every day, now open to reveal the baby pictures they'd carried for decades without knowing. It was in the grandchildren who grew up knowing all their cousins, never understanding there had been a time when the families were separate. It was in the holidays, celebrated together, the birthdays never missed again, the ordinary weekday phone calls just to chat. 1 year after their reunion, on what would have been their mother's 95th birthday, Patricia and Linda sat together in their shared studio. Patricia was painting a portrait of their mother from an old photograph, while Linda played the melody from the music box on her violin. "Do you think Mom knew?" Linda asked softly. "Do you think she knew we'd find each other?" Clay's into the passage. Patricia smiled, adding a touch of blue to her mother's eyes on the canvas. "I think she knew that love always finds a way. She gave us the music box, the lockets, the letters. She left us breadcrumbs to follow home. And we followed them," Linda said, her bow moving gracefully across the strings. "We followed them," Patricia agreed. The music box sat on the shelf between them, a symbol of what they'd lost and what they'd found. Sometimes loss and discovery are two parts of the same journey, and sometimes the longest way home is the one that teaches us the most about what home really means. For Patricia and Linda, home wasn't a place. It was the sound of a music box playing a familiar melody. It was the feeling of painting while music filled the air. It was the knowledge that after 35 years of silence, they would never be silent again. It was the understanding that family isn't just about never fighting. It's about always finding your way back to each other, no matter how long it takes, no matter how hard the journey. It's about love that survives misunderstanding, time, and distance. And sometimes it's about a game show host who stops everything to help two sisters find each other again, who understands that some things are more important than any game, and who reminds us all that it's never, ever too late to come home. The music box melody played on, the same tune that had danced through two little girls' childhood, that had been silenced for 35 years, and that now sang again in a studio filled with love, paint, music, and the kind of joy that comes only from finding something precious you thought was lost forever. Two sisters, reunited. Two families, merged. Two hearts, healed. One music box, finally home where it belonged. In the space between them, a bridge across decades of silence. A reminder that love, real love, never truly disappears. It just waits, patient and persistent, for the moment when pride finally gives way to grace, and two people brave enough to say, "I'm sorry," discover that they've been forgiven all along.